America, whether you're a bureaucrat or a school teacher, don't make excuses about the corrupt system you're in or, who's up on top of it. What you do that's right changes that. I mean, it's a real battle between good and evil, and it's what we all do individually. So when we say, oh, it's corrupt, I'm going to leave it alone, you're giving power to the evil.
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking, there's a general question, actually, like, what do we do? And the great response that you seem to have is the little things. It's the little things like making copies of your DVDs, sending out, like, flyers, just talking to people.
Well, take PlanetInfowars.com. Its success, and now we've gone through beta, and it had a few glitches like we knew, but now the guys have really got it working great. Incredible job. And so it's there for you, and people are meeting, they're dating, they're camping, they're shooting, they're getting together as activists, they're starting their own journalist groups. I've get calls on the radio all the time. We should start a segment once a week on the radio about Planet InfoWars.
That'd be awesome.
It's all part of this brainstorming.
Yeah.
And so just remind me to do that, please. And nudge me into doing it because there's so much going on, how it is.
Formulate it and come to you.
I mean, you see what's going on around here. We're not sitting around.
No, absolutely.
Because we know the time is short. The enemy knows the time is short, and we've got to wake up as many people as we can before things go to the next level, or we could reverse that takeover. But what was the point I was making about... the
little things.
Oh, the little things. Listen, we're taking articles that men and women are writing on that website from all over the world, of every race, color, creed, and promoting them to InfoWars and Prison Planet. And we're working on a system where what you vote up shows up on InfoWars and Prison Planet.
Right.
And that's the key, not just what we're doing at PlanetInfowars.com, but setting up a system where whatever's top voted shows up on InfoWars and Prison Planet. So again, we're in beta right now, folks. That's why it's so important to spread the word about PlanetInfowars.com and everything we're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the next question actually has to do with Mitt Romney as a likely Republican nominee. So is Mormonism going to be related to the global elite? Is that going to come into play in any facet?
Well, I think Mitt Romney is first and foremost a vulture capitalist, which is in the same family as a crony capitalist. He's a monopoly guy. His fruits are open borders, abortion, restrictions on the Second Amendment, carbon taxes. That's what he does when he's in power. His rhetoric, a lot of it's really good, but that's not what Mitt Romney's going to do. Kind of like Justice Roberts voted for the plan. And it's like, well, he's a Republican. Why did, well, because the insurance companies wrote this, their stocks are up, they want this. They get to cut the kind of care you get, charge you more for less, make you buy the product.
Tell you when to die.
Tell you when to die, the death panels, exactly. Well,
yeah.
Christy, it's not just me ranting. Give us your take on all this. You've been here about a month. You're doing a really great job. Got a lot of energy. We've kind of just thrown you in the deep end. What do you...
Treading water.
What I mean, politically, because when I interviewed you, you seemed interesting, but they'd already interviewed you. I think we did like a 10-minute interview. I never even found out your political views. I'm just kind of, hey, here's the stuff, social network, moderated, no hacking, no porn, and, we're not going to call for, killing races of people.
Right.
But it's pretty much wide open. Now that you've been, well, what were your views before, and now a month here, what are your views now?
It's a really fascinating question, actually. You take the political talking points that you hear on all news sites, and you utilize those. And so you realize that that's all they are, just talking points, that you're really not delving into the reason that they're there, or even paying attention to the fact that you're getting kicked in the butt no matter who you vote for president, Republican or Democrat. It seems to just keep going in that one direction no matter what's going on. So politically, I would have to say that I was very close-minded in terms of understanding how the world worked. I'm still not there, but yeah, it's eye-opening, especially moderating comments. You see what people are saying, and you see what they're...
But you're totally already there. I learned so much from the comments, how trolls operate, absolutely, but also nuances, how smart folks are, the points they make. Serpico said that today. He said, I love going to websites and reading the thought-provoking ideas, because people, there's a lot of smart folks out there, and there's the system and the trolls like, don't do that. But you have, you do have deep understanding. Everything you always say really has piercing clarity and boiling it down. I could spend an hour trying to describe something, but you just did it. The mainstream media wants something to be one-dimensional instead of, two-dimensional. They don't want you to look layers within or even ask, where does something come from?
Well, what's fascinating is actually my fascination with the healthcare industry. I actually was pursuing to go to med school before I got this job. That was one of my aspirations. And I've decided I don't want anything to do with the allopathic system. I think it's all about pharmaceuticals and pushing this Agenda 21, essentially, which at the time I had no idea about. But the idea being that people just want a pill. They want everything to be fixed, but they don't want to figure out what the source of it is. They don't want to figure out, like, it's their food, it's their water. And the idea, I honestly never knew about fluoride before I worked here. I never really crossed my mind. You know, I heard about it being good for your teeth, and that was as far as it went. But in my own health, like reading health medical journals and things like that, I've come to the conclusion that essentially nobody cares. Like, nobody cares enough to ask those questions. And then coming here and
it's so stupid because these people that don't care, it's affecting their family.
Absolutely. And it's mind-boggling to think that nobody would even ask that question. And then when they do, they're discouraged.
See how smart she is?
Do go on, Alex. Do go on.
No, you're doing a good job. No, I'm serious. Everybody's got it. And I'm the same way. I'm self-deprecating, but we all recognize inherent truth, and we recognize we're not getting it from the mainstream media. I mean, they'll be accurate about a plane crashed here or there was a fire there, but they'll take some issue about, well, Assad's mean, and we're going to get rid of him. And it's like, but you admit you're using Al-Qaeda on him. I mean, I'm no rocket scientist. You're telling me give up my way of life and be a slave because of Al-Qaeda, but you work with them?
Right.
I mean, that's all I can talk about. It's just 9/11 being an inside job, all of it. I mean, there it is. Just proof. Well,
I hate that terrorists has become one of those, like gourmet as to food. I mean, it's overused, and it's a fear monger.
Yeah, like Chef Boyardee dog food crud. And they says gourmet, and it's got a guy with a white hat on it. So it must be really good.
Absolutely. And that's what they've done with terrorism. In the name of fear, you're willing to give up all your rights, like starting with the TSA. Like, those kind of ideas, those kind of issues.
Exactly. All we're doing is unplugging from this BS system. It doesn't even mean we have all the answers. How many questions are we? I've got to leave in.
I think we're at question 3 right now.
I've got to leave in 20 minutes to go see my grandmother. Okay. That's right. I'm a good person on Friday night. I'm going to see my grandmother.
Filet mignon and everything.
That's right. I only see her about once a month. She likes steaks, and I'm going to bring her a steak.
That's awesome.
You actually heard me. I ordered. You were coming in there, and I'm like, so my wife said, honey, will you get her a steak? Because she likes a steak. So we're all going to drive over with the kids and hang out with her.
That sounds fun.
It's about all my grandmother will eat. She hardly eats. I tell you how that woman, she doesn't eat anything.
Like a bird. Like
yeah, she is like a bird, but you bring her a little fillet, she'll eat it.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways.
Well, the next question actually is it's from Ian. He says, I recently saw a picture of a drone that was used in a news article. On the back, it had a NASA symbol. And I know that NASA has stopped sending ships to the space station. Does this mean that NASA is no longer doing that, and instead they're working with the National Defense?
Well, great question. NASA, since it was set up under the office of the president in the late 40s, has always been a military operation. And so much of the secret government is actually under NASA. The space program was only their PR campaign to sell you on budgetary funding. Conservatively, it was about 80% until the last few years of NASA funding went to secret projects. Like, secret launch of NASA. Now it's over 90%. And the 1930s technology of Werner von Braun, was the big Nazi expert. He drew and designed the space shuttle in the 30s. Right after Hitler had come to power. He became his head of projects. So he came over to the U.S. in the 50s. He was taken actually after World War II in the 40s, 45 to be technical. And you've got the Goddard Space Center. He was also a big Nazi. So, and it wasn't just Nazis in that. It was Nazis over intelligence. They said, we like your model. You're the boss. So they actually took about 14,000 top Nazis over here to run everything, including nerve gas.
Paperclip? Is that Project Paperclip?
Yeah, exactly. A rat line paperclip. But they also would have the Nazis run the programs to they'd bring some young troops in and nerve gas them in a chamber just to have the Nazis see if they could get U.S. doctors to go along with it. Well, we've got to kill these troops because if we get hit with nerve gas, millions will die. And, it's for the greater good. So they killed foster kids, everything. But the Nazis knew it was like how to get somebody into evil in the name of good, the greater good. Like that film on vaccines that we carry at INFOWARS.com. It's called The Greater Good because that's the big sick joke. But it's a whole nother area of discussion. People are like, oh, we don't hear about the Nazis or the ultimate evil all day. No, there's lots of evil governments, but the Nazis, the system they developed came out of eugenics in England, and the government here was a big fan of that predominantly. So, the Nazis were like rock stars, and they took them over here and put them in everywhere. But to answer the space program question, NASA's involved with Google. NASA's involved with the NSA. NASA is just kind of a PR name.
Because everyone thinks it's cool to go to space.
I mean, it's kind of like a NASCAR guy has got all these patches on him, and the big patch on the shadow government's NASA. Gotcha. But it's a bunch of patches that make up the shadow government.
You should draw something like that.
I wish, yeah. But
I like all your doodlings.
I mean, it's more like Space Command. Space Command's actually over the whole military, Colorado Springs, NORAD. All of that is, NASA's just one logo of the secret government.
Gotcha.
So it's always been secret. And now, since you're not into space travel, it's not cool anymore. They'll show you simulated space travel. It's all drone. Hundreds of drone Black Manta spacecraft, DU Sabo rounds, meteor guns, decapitation networks to be able to knock out every world leader in 1 hour. They had that in 1979. I've interviewed the former head of Star Wars, Dr. Bob Bowman. People don't think Star Wars started until the early 80s. I mean, it's just a huge secret government program, pretty much an off-world technological breakaway civilization.
Wow.
We don't even know how thousands of astronauts have died in secret missions. That's a conservative number. I've talked to former top NASA people who I've been friends with for decades, 15 years, who you can watch in the Apollo program are on the front line, like up there running things. One guy lives outside Austin.
Cool, let's get him on.
His name's Raymond Teague. Well, he's hard to get on air.
I imagine.
Plus, he's got heart trouble and stuff. And thing is, he'll tell you stuff in private. Once he gets on air, it's almost like conditioning. You can't even talk about it.
Unnerving.
But they went to the moon and beyond. The point is that what we were shown with the moon technology, a lot of that was fake because they don't want to show you what they've really got. Man, these are good questions. What's coming up next?
Ron Paul is quoted as saying, "Nobody has a right to someone else's wealth. You have a right to your life, and you have a right to your property. But education isn't a right. Medicare isn't a right. These are things that you earn." But isn't it hypocritical to say that when we support a right to fair trial or a civil trial by jury, isn't that hypocritical?
Now, maybe I'm dense, but read me that question one more time.
Essentially, Ron Paul states nobody has a right to anyone else's wealth, including education is a right, Medicare is a right, But isn't it hypocritical to say that when we support a right to a fair trial and a civil trial by jury? I included this question because I honestly wanted your opinion as well. I read it and I thought, I don't know. I don't know what he's going to answer.
Well, that's a good philosophical question. There are all these anarchist capitalists that just say no state, no nothing. Well, I mean, humans organize themselves.
Absolutely.
The question is, how do you organize yourself? And so on one extreme, there's the argument that all good comes from collectivization, which we know is a nightmare. You have no privacy, no nothing. A bunch of people sit around or get in a gang with clubs and make you work for them. That's what it turns into.
Someone essentially takes over at some point.
There's always, exactly, that creates a power vacuum. It always reverts back to the law of the jungle. So it's better to have good people organize themselves into an agreed-upon, super limited government to protect themselves from the next country that's a big centralized government that wants to come and make them slaves.
Gotcha.
And that's the 1776 model. And so if you're going to have a limited government, the individual better be involved and better show up as the final checkmate in the grand jury and the jury, which you're supposed to be able to vote, but also grand jury, the regular jury, and also the cartridge box. So there's a lot of ways to vote, and we're supposed to be the judge of the law, as well as do we think this was right morally. It's called jury nullification. So people that look at Ron Paul and say, that's not libertarian enough, I shouldn't have to go to jury duty. Well, no, what you should look at is how they've turned the juries into puppets being instructed by the judge instead of the other way around. And if you study our system, that's what we're at. I mean, I'd rather beat the government health care first and beat the gun control and beat the, the globalization and all of this